Welcome to Gray Overload. I'm Anthony, and Ryzen 2nd Gen has launched. With AMD launching their 2nd Gen Ryzen processors here, with the Ryzen 7 and the Ryzen 5, this is quite impressive. I'm glad to see AMD keeping up with this. Now, this was a minor refinement on last year's architecture of Zen, so this is what they're calling like Zen Plus architecture behind the scenes here. Some slight changes overall, but I'm really excited about this because one, there's competition again, and competition between these two companies of Intel and AMD. This is impressive. So we have the Ryzen 7 line, we have the 2700X and the 2700. Then in the Ryzen 5 we have now the 2600X and the 2600. Now also in there we have the 2400G, which was launched a few months ago, and then the Ryzen 3 has the 2200G, and both of those with the G on it have the graphics. But I'm going to focus on what AMD launched was the first four, the 2700s and the 2600s. And what's really cool is that now all of these processors come with coolers. And I know I've been in the mind where some of these coolers that we've gotten in the past from like Intel have been just junk. You just buy another cooler anyways. And I've been doing that for so long, I just thought, well, if processors come with a cooler, let's just chuck it. But these, from what I'm hearing, are actually quite good coolers. So this actually goes, instead of spending at least $30 on a cooler, you don't have to do that if you don't want to. And that's important. I think that's a great thing for AMD and another additional selling point. I mean, the 1800X at launch was what, $499, and I believe it was like $399 for the 1700X when it first launched. And now the 2700X, and that's going to be at $329, include a cooler, 8 cores, 16 threads, 3.7 gigahertz base, and a 4.3 gigahertz boost. So that's actually really impressive overall. And then the 2700, you have a 3.2 gigahertz base, a 4.1 gigahertz boost. Again, 8 cores, 12 threads. Now, it's got the Wrath Spire instead of the Wrath Prism, but it still comes with a cooler. And, it's a 65 watt TDP rather than the 105 watt that's on the 2700X. Then the 2600X, that's a 95 watt TDP, but that's a 3 gigahertz base and a 4.2 gigahertz boost on 6 core and 12 threads. And then you have rounding it out of the 2600, excuse me, and that is a 3.4 gigahertz base and a 3.9 gigahertz boost. And so I'm really impressed here. And as you see the prices here, you got 2600, that's basically $199. Then you got the 2600X, $229, and then the 2700 at $299. So there's a great range here. The prices are important, and now that we've gotten competition here with Intel and the pricing, you can kind of see where prices are starting to come down a little bit, and from launch prices over the previous gen. And it's interesting. I actually liked, and I'm enjoying seeing this competition between the two companies here, and it's been very impressive. So the overall, I've been impressed with what AMD has been doing here, and AMD really worked to kind of iron out some of the things that they didn't quite hit on all cylinders or do well in the first generations. And remember, when Ryzen first came out, this was a big step for AMD. They took a huge leap over the prior generation, and it was a big shock to maybe all of our systems to kind of see AMD get that close to Intel with so many years of just not being within the game arena at all. So now that they're up there, it wasn't as big a jump, but it was a nice refinement to a processor they already have out there. And they kind of pulled within quite well with their gaming performance. Now, I've been looking at gaming numbers from different reviewers on the webs, and I've been impressed overall with how they've closed the gap and how they've improved things. And basically, what I see is kind of they took the architecture and kind of studied it and cleaned it up. They said there were some things that we didn't do right, but now we should probably go and clean those up. We know some of the efficiencies basically from, the motherboard side and everything else, and now we have the opportunity to clean those up. That's what I see AMD went through and did here, because the creativity performance is still great. I mean, games, depending upon how they're all threaded and everything else, they still have a little hit there, but what was impressive is that they cleaned it up, and then your productivity performance compared to the 8600 now, you have a lot of the benefits of the extra 2 cores, and from that. So instead of the 6-core 12 thread, you got the 8 and 16. So that's the important side too. Now, this process, AMD also went from a 14 nanometer to a 12 nanometer process on the global foundries in the second generation here. What they said is that it kind of lifted the clock speeds up about 250 megahertz. All core overclocks now above 4.2, and then they had about a 50 millivolt V-core reduction at any clock. So that's actually kind of important to get that power draw down, but then also increase performance at the same power. I like what they're trying to do here. I kind of see this as kind of like a half step, a little cleanup there on the manufacturing side as well, and where Global Foundries looked at different ways that they could do things too, an improvement there. So it'll be interesting to see, because the Ryzen 2700X did get a boost into the to a TDP of 105 watts rather than the 95 of the 1800X or the 1700. But as I watch where all of these overclocking results come in, we'll kind of get a sense for if overclocking is better now or if anything changed. But they kind of did some things with the Sense MI technology where they can now boost and have different boosts, especially if you're using the if you have the new 470X motherboards, you're going to get a little bit more substantial clock speeds. It's not just, hey, I can boost on these first two on the first core and then it drops back down to base or anything else. There's a more gradual, so it's taking a more gradual sense of where the TDP is, how the cooling's going, and kind of been going through and having a better gradual effect and slope down, as you can see here. And so you get a little bit of the uplift, which has been very impressive here. And there's just a lot of stuff that AMD kind of did. I mean, the one thing that they also have is, this is soldered IHSs. So there's no you don't have to worry about delidding your CPU or anything else. You should have great cooling on that as well, so that you don't have to delid your CPU in order to get the great cooling and the great uplift of that. So hopefully that the pressures that AMD's putting into their processors and doing this, I want them to continue, by the way. AMD's keep putting an effort into making sure you're doing as much things right as possible, so that your designs, your development, and then your release of your processors has everything in that an overclocker or a high-end gamer would like, or a high-end productivity person would want, and that they can still push your processors to the limits. And what I'm hoping for is that Intel does the same thing, is that Intel goes soldered IHSs, so that improves and everything else, because it would get really fun then with everything that Intel and AMD going back and forth and kind of continuing to improve everything. They also updated the Ryzen Master. I don't know how it works, or if it works with the new with Threadripper that I have here, but I'm actually interested to take this a little bit more, see what it all does, and go from there. But overall, my little thoughts on this is that AMD has done a great job here, I think, with this next generation of processors. And this generation here of a lot of the fine-tuning refinements and the cleanup that was needed for this generation. I'm just as excited for the next generation. I really, really, really want to probably test out this generation. Hopefully things work out and I can get a system with a 2700 or 2700X. I have a machine I can replace with it, but it's not all in the budget right now. But I'm really hoping that I can get my hands on it. I think AMD has done a great job. Intel, they've been at this game for a long time. They've had a long time with no competition. Last year that was introduced, and this year you can kind of see the effects where they're both trying to do improvements. We have improvements on the mobile side from Intel. AMD's doing a great job that I'm seeing, and I've been very impressed by how AMD has come out swinging and done enough refinements here in this next generation to kind of even make it even more attractive here. Um, I'm really interested because for 329 and or 299 for the 2700, it is, I mean, very close in price. It's, oh, man, it's really interesting here. You got a great creativity performance, those extra 2 cores and threads. You know, you're slightly behind in gaming, but not that much by AMD's own numbers. I'm really excited to see where this goes going forward. Zen 2, hopefully AMD keeps up the good work that they've been doing. Lisa Su and the team over there, congratulations for what they're doing, because I've been impressed. I'm so ecstatic. Like, I love the competition here. It's been very fun watching from the CPU side and being able to, you know, tinker with some of these CPUs that are out there. You know, I've been able to tinker with the Intel ones, with the AMD ones through going between work and, you know, my personal stuff. So it's been fun to do because, yeah, more cores, more fun, more ability to be able to be more creative for everyone out there, and that's what I like. So thank you for watching. Thank you for taking the time to support Gray Overload and help this channel grow. Let me know what your thoughts are about the new Ryzen 2700. As you can tell, I'm pretty excited because I just love competition. I love new stuff. And so you know, my thing right now is, if you're in the market for one, can seriously take a look and consider one of these, because, man, it doesn't get any better. If, you know, if you're a gamer at 1080p and stuff like that, from some of the numbers I see, it looks like the 8700 K is one that you want. If you're doing a lot of other things, look at the Ryzen 2700, because X, if you're going between those two lines, because it is impressive and I'm excited. So let me know what your thoughts are on this release and what your thoughts are on the whole processor market in general, if you're excited about the competition as well. So until next time, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching Gray Overload. If you like this content, be sure to subscribe.